You're good.
I love it so much.
It looks like a game show hostess.
Yes. I had to work today. Okay, so we are on to bird songs, our last cycles unit. And next year's unit will give you a little precursor. It's our first session of ELF. You know, our ELF cycles every 5 years. So those of you who have kindergartners, well, you won't have this again. Those of you who have preschoolers will have this session again. So it'll all cycle every 5 years so that all the kids get fresh information. Us poor parents have to repeat. But that makes us more in tune with stuff. So anyway, next year's unit is adaptations, and we're going to learn about all kinds of animal adaptations to cope with the world, but it's really cool. We're going to dissect owl pellets. We're going to get kits from, I think, the Museum of Nature and Science with teeth and skulls of different creatures, and so it'll really be a good hands-on, fun unit. So
we'll even have the big walrus tusks and stuff. Yeah,
really cool. It's really cool. So I think you guys can look forward to that. So keep coming back for more. But on to bird songs. I guess I don't really know how to begin except that the cycles of bird singing really seems to start about now. And if you guys sleep with your windows open, but you'll sure notice it about 5 a.m. They get into a quite singy song. We also have a problem with woodpeckers at our house that like to peck and then call each other very early in the morning. So when you're talking to the kids about it, you can ask them, what have they noticed in the spring? And daylight savings time is kind of a time that naturally the birds are picking up on it too. They're starting to come because the days are getting longer and they're flying north. So you can talk about migration again and bring all those things back into the forefront of their mind. But the puppet show will be a good introduction, and it mostly talks about Mr. Raccoon Puppet is very crabby because Mr. Bird, we're not quite finished with this, Mr. Bird keeps waking him up at 5 in the morning. Oh, that's Mrs. Bird, pardon me. Mr. Bird. Mr. Bird's bright yellow, Mrs. Bird's light yellow, and we'll have them all colored. Anyway, so Raccoon's crabby because he's singing, and so he's like, Mr. Bird, why are you screaming so much? And Mr. Bird says, well, it's because I'm calling a mate. And so Raccoon says, oh, she's over there. I saw her in the tree. Go to her. So Mr. Bird goes to the tree and finds Mrs. Bird, and they're so happy and in love. But the next day, the bird's still chirping at 5 in the morning. So Raccoon's like, well, what's going on? You're still chirping. And he said, well, now I'm chirping to stay away. So he's got the territory and the food and the mate finding. So there's lots of reasons for bird songs. So we're going to go into that in depth. And then, so that's the first outline part, the introduction, part 1. Part 2, we're going to learn that birds sing songs, and some of them just do calls, and some of them do songs and calls. And so the big difference is mostly the length and what they're used for. The songs are long for courtship and territory marking, and calls are short. And they're just to kind of tell the birds to stay away or warn of predators or where the food is, information like that. So then our last center is going to be about discussing how birds make sounds and how different they are, that a bird can sing 2 notes at once. A bird could even sing a duet with itself because of its anatomy. So we'll cover that more in Center 5. And then the last little thing on the introduction is the bird mnemonics. And so we're going to teach that if you saw the little teacher, 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 or chickadee-dee-dee, those are little things to help us remember how birds talk. And hopefully the kids will pick up a few and take a couple home and really drive you crazy over the summer. So that's it for the introduction. And, okay, Center 1. Oh, sorry, we have one book too. Tweedledee would be good for the introduction, but it's kind of for younger kids. And for the conclusion, I guess we'll cover that again probably, but When Agnes Caws. So there's 2 books in here. You'll find this whole unit is very material poor. There's not a whole lot of material, so that's probably good for the end of the year because they're all getting anxious and make it easier for all of us.
Do you think we'll take any lesser amount of time to present?
I don't think so, but I did notice, especially the 4th graders, we always have a little bit extra time, so we try to lengthen our centers to 20 minutes. That was a disaster. We keep them 15 minutes because they get bored after if they're in a long nap. So 15 minutes seems like a good number.
So, Carrie, if the teacher takes a book out to read, which one, Agnes Caws or
The other one. The other one, well, for the younger kids.
She's
Agnes
2nd grade
Caws.
then. It's right in the middle.
Yeah. Either one, and you could pull a book out of any center, really.
Okay.
The conclusion one, I didn't pre-read it. Did you read When Agnes Caws? Let's see. It says something about When Agnes Caws, I know. So hold on, we'll get there. When Agnes Caws. If you'd like, pass out, birds on cards. Oh, that's good for the conclusion. And I didn't bring those cards. so-
Story with birdsong cards for student participation.
Yeah, so that'd be good for a conclusion rather than an introduction. The cards especially, but if you just want to read the book, that's fine. I bring the cards. They're on my buffet. Okay. So, any other questions on intro or conclusion? Or intro, I guess, just?